Hey, how's it going? My name is Cameron Malpe. I'm a 26-year-old licensed painting contractor in Southern California. I just want to take a moment to kind of talk to you about how I got to where I am now, where I'm making over six figures a year. Not even usually working full time. Being a painting contractor, doing some of the work myself, using employees and using subcontractors, and maybe some tips for anybody out there who's a painter or who wants to start their own business or who's starting their own business or who's doing this as a side hustle and wants to make more money or anything like that. So I'm just going to kind of give you kind of a rundown of how I came to be running my own small painting business. So pretty much all started with the pandemic happened. I was living up in Seattle. I was a waiter, supporting myself that way. And then all the restaurants shut down, so I lost my job. So I had to leave Seattle, move back to my hometown to live with my mom. Um, I had to figure out a way to make money. The only skill I had was waiting tables, basically, that paid anything. And I'd always kind of wanted to start my own business, and I'd been following these kind of small business, self-employed YouTubers for a long time. Started a small window cleaning business, but nothing that I ever took seriously. It was only a kind of a part-time endeavor. Um, Maybe back in like 2017, I didn't take it very seriously at all. I had a full-time job. I was making pretty good money. Um, but at this point, my income was completely cut off. So I said, screw it. I have a van. I have a lawnmower. My mom owned a lawnmower. I had like a weed whacker, blower, stuff like that was just laying around. And I just said, all right, I'm going to try to start a lawn care business. So I put up a bunch of signs around town, $35 a lawn, got a bunch of phone calls. Then it was like, this is great, but it's just ton of work. I have to go to the dump every day, dump out the grass clippings, like running around for $25 here, $25 there after gas and expenses and all that. So I was like, screw that, or I'm going to do landscaping. So I started doing yard cleanups, and I'd do like $400 job size. $500, $800 was like really good. You know what I mean? Like maybe $1,000 out of a client. I was like, oh my god, and I hired my sister's boyfriend at the time and his friends. They worked for $15 an hour, and we'd have our little operation with my van that got like 8 miles to the gallon up in Washington State. But all summer I was just busting my ass doing, landscaping and just being covered in dirt and gravel and dealing with all these different materials and trying to do, I tried to do a patio, put in a patio by myself. The homeowners never used it once. They ended up selling the house. That was funny. But just trying different things to make money. I tried doing dump runs, trash removal. Almost got fined like a ton of money by the city for posting illegal advertising. Learned my lesson with that. Um, then I just kept doing the yard cleanups. Then somebody wanted me to paint one of their sheds. So I was like, all right, I had done a little bit of painting. I was like, how hard can it be? I'd never done any exterior, but I got a sprayer. I had a couple $1,000s set up, and I had been watching this couple paint YouTubers online, and I was like, maybe I'll try this out instead of landscaping because I was just sick of dealing with all the gravel and all the different sod and wood chips and all the hay fever that goes with dealing with plants and all that. So I was like, all right, let me try painting. Painted the shed. Absolutely hated my life. Took me forever. Took me like 3 days to paint this little shed. Today I'd bust it out in a day, or even less than that, like a couple hours. But it took me forever to figure out the pump. No idea what I was doing. Going on YouTube, trying to tons of drips and all this crap. And the guy paid me $500, and I hated it, to be honest with you. I hated painting. I hated inhaling the paint particles and the fumes, and it was like, just exhausting and all that. It's still exhausting, but I'm much more efficient now. But so he had me paint that. Then he had me paint the side of his house, and then I got my first door I ever knocked. Actually, I was going to do some door to door sales. The first door I ever knocked, I landed a full exterior job. I had no credibility whatsoever. I had no pictures. I had no references. And I was just like, yeah, I painted a couple houses. I was like, can I see him? Like, oh no, like, but I mean, I had to do what I had to do. I was like, screw it. I gotta, I know that I can pull it off. I pulled off the shed. The shed looked good. I told him about the shed, but I just went in. It took me like forever. It took me like 2 weeks. Now these days it'd probably take me and another guy like 4 days or something like that. But I was just taking way too much time doing all these little tiny wood repairs, and I had to source this siding from these like 1970s houses that only like one place in my entire town made. I track it down, did all this BS. The guy was harassing me the whole time. Turned out great, looked really nice. Completely took this old, dilapidated, um, house that hadn't been painted in like 50 years and just made it look brand new. It was really satisfying. Everybody was like really pleased with it. And I made like 15 after I paid everybody out. I had like my sister's boyfriend and his buddy helped me out. Um, and I made like $1,500 in like a week. And I was like, damn, that's like, 70, 75,000, 80,000 a year, and I'd been, as a waiter, I'd been making like, I mean, I was going to school at the time, but I was making like, $30,000 a year or something, and I was like, okay, I could see this, working out. And, it's a simple enough trade. I can, get other people to do it. You can train other people, and it's a nice big chunk of change. Whereas, going around all these lawns, was really inefficient and a huge pain in the ass to keep track of all the clients. With paint jobs is just one big chunk of change, and you can pay everybody out of it. You don't have to chase down all this other work. Um, so I was like, okay, screw it. I'll try this. So anyways, I moved down to Southern California. I tried doing my own thing for a while, but down here, as opposed to wood, it's all stucco. So I didn't really know how to do stucco repair or anything like that, or I didn't know anything about stucco. Instead of educating myself, I basically just kind of like failed myself out of business, and I just like didn't take quotes seriously. I had like several $1,000s worth of savings. I screwed myself basically, and I got really lazy and complacent until I had no money left, and I actually had to live in my van for like a couple weeks. With all my painting equipment, it was absolutely miserable. And then luckily, it was like right around Christmas when everything was super slow. And luckily, I landed this job painting uh, crown molding for this guy who's now my buddy and his dad. And they would just go around doing all this custom carpentry, and I was the painter. And I was like, yeah, I painted, and I wasn't even that good. They had to train me up, but I learned a lot from them about how to cut. And I was making like $20 an hour. And that job really saved me. And then I got one because I was pretty much homeless at that point. And so I got this one interior job. I incredibly underpriced it. It was $2,400 for all the cabinets. I knew nothing about bidding at this point. So and I was just desperate. And I was like, if I can make extra $1,000 on the side, that would get me into an apartment or something. So I quoted like $2,400, including materials for the entire interior, not including ceilings, just the walls of this like 3-bedroom house and all the cabinets in $2,400, including materials. So I was like making like $1,200 at the end, or maybe like something like, something absurdly low, but they were like super, super cheap. They were like even balking at that price, but they paid me, and I got enough money to move into a room. And then I was just working this job for like another 5 months, and I really hated it. 9 to 5. Just, and my boss is super cool, but like, and it was a good job, but I just hate having a boss. I can't stand people telling me what to do. I don't like I don't have any freedom. If I don't show up, I get fired. Just having a job kind of sucks. And I wasn't making enough money. I was making like, $3,200 a month, in Southern California. It's really expensive. After gas, I still had the same 8 mile per gallon van. So I was just barely surviving. But I was living indoors, and I was like, all right, man. And I was like, and I had this other job at it's a stupid seafood place, and it was like the worst job I've ever had. I had like everybody in the restaurant micromanage me, including like my equals in the chain of command. Everybody would just tell. It was so horrible, and I was like, fuck this. I was like, I'm working 18 hours a week, and they had terrible hours. You would get like 3-hour shifts. You get like $30. And so I was like, fuck this. I'm going to try and have this painting job that I had, making $20 an hour this full time, and then do side gigs. And so I basically started doing side gigs. And I had been buying leads before, but back in Washington when I kind of succeeded. So I just started buying leads again. First, actually, I had no money because so this is too long of a story. I'm rambling too much, but I started out literally with the most ghetto advertising that has ever been created. Like, I started out and I would print out in a sheet of paper 4 different things just on Microsoft Word at the library that said Cam's Painting, just in like bold, like giant lettering, $20 an hour. Client buys materials, and I would just cut these pieces of white paper into quarters, and literally just have this little ghetto ass piece of paper that I would just tape to someone's door, and I passed out like 500 or 1,000 of these. And I got a couple calls for 20 bucks an hour. I was like so desperate. This is like when I had the job, 20 bucks an hour, but it was only part-time. So it was like 2 to 3 hours, 2 to 3 days a week. So I had like, 600 bucks coming in. I still had to buy, pay rent and do all, or I don't even think I had moved out of the van. I was just so incredibly desperate when I moved into the van, which was my own doing. But I, just trying to get money together, and then I got the call for the $2,400 job was from one of these ghetto ass little things. And I got a couple other jobs for 20, but I just $100 here, $100 there. And I got like, 1,500 bucks or enough to move into a room, luckily. Um, but yeah, I mean, that's pretty much how I started to back up. And then I would go along a couple months, really struggling, barely selling anything because my sales sucked. I didn't know how to estimate all this stuff, and I was super unprofessional, honestly, with clients, way too friendly or goofy, or, I didn't have, I would just wear the most filthy, like paint covered clothes. I looked like shit. I had no logo. I had no online presence. I had my Thumbtack account with a couple 5-star reviews but I actually deleted that. So I just, when I closed down my business, when I first moved down to California, I gave up essentially and I got a job. But yeah, all these factors, basically, I just started my current business and I've been successful for like a year and a half now. I've been in business, my second go around, and I've been much more successful than my first go around. And I know I've learned a ton. Um, but being homeless in a van, hating my jobs, absolutely hating my life, basically I was like, fuck it. Painting, I know I can make money doing this. I just have to learn how to do it. And I just basically taught myself how to do it while learning how to sell, learning how to market, learning how to do all this, and just crawled my way out of absolute abject poverty. There were times when I was working like 7 days a week, 12-hour days, and then once I got moved into a room, it was a whole nother struggle. Just learning about different paints, what I need. Do I need 2 coats? Do I need 1 coat? People learning how to hire people screwing me over countless times. Um, just clients being cheap, not selling, underbidding a job and just getting totally screwed with labor, and then I started using subcontractors and all the pitfalls of using them and what I've learned. So I've had a ton of different experiences in this, last 3 years, basically, of trying to start my own business. And I think I can provide someone who's in, the position that I was in, where you have a 9 to 5, or you don't really know what to do, you don't have like high income earning skills, or you want to make more money or start your own business. I can definitely give you some sort of value or some advice, and just encouragement, motivation, and practical tips that will cut down your learning curve radically and help you, you know, get a high paying skill, which is basically running your own business and the trade of painting specifically. And I'm going to branch out into other things with this channel. I want to do other projects, maybe flipping houses, um, weird stuff, flipping a trailer, maybe, starting maybe an online venture. But right now, what is making me money is the painting. But I want to do like line striping, maybe asphalt maintenance. I want to try different things, but I can give you advice on the painting aspect. So if you want any tips, just, subscribe. So thanks. Bye.